that's probably some of the most blatant product placement that I've seen.
It really was. And not even just the visuals. It was like the things they were saying too.
Absolutely.
They just kept on throwing. I was like, all right, we get it.
Right. Remember when he fell and that Nike check was the crater?
Like, oh,
that was crazy.
That was disgusting.
That was actually an eye roll moment. I said, oh wow, like they need any more advertisement.
That was probably the worst part of the movie to me. Is like all of the unnecessary references to properties. You can show without telling. You know, you don't have to be so blatant with it.
There you go. It's like you said, it was the combo of the talking and the showing. It was like, hey, the Matrix, but remember the Matrix? Like, yeah, nigga, you just showed me 9 scenes from the Matrix.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Cynicism. I'm Eric.
It's your boy Dante, man, and today we're going to be doing a review on Space Jam: A New Legacy.
Long-awaited sequel, man. You know, they've been talking about releasing this movie for years, and I had heard rumors years ago that LeBron was going to be cast in the role, but then I heard that wasn't true. I'm happy we finally got it, man. I seem like this is like long overdue. I guess it's a sequel, but at some points it feels like a reboot. It's weird, but we're going to talk about that. Starring LeBron James, somewhat based on his real life. It takes place kind of in modern times. You know, he's an NBA superstar. He's living with his family. He has 3 kids. He has a daughter and 2 boys. This story is more focused on his relationship with his youngest son and how they kind of don't really connect in the way that they want that he wants to, because LeBron focuses on, you know, basketball, so he wants his son to take the same interest, but his son doesn't necessarily feel as strongly about basketball as he does. He's more tech world and software development and stuff. But also you have this guy played by Don Cheadle who is a algorithm called Algorithm is the name he goes. That hurt to say. Warner Brothers software that is responsible for advertisements and everything. He's come up with a way to maximize their exposure by using LeBron James. The people at Warner Brothers don't really like it. LeBron doesn't really like it. And he kind of takes that personally. He comes up with a plan to suck LeBron James and his son into this serververse is what it's called. He sucks them into the serververse and challenges them to a game of basketball. If LeBron loses, then he takes over he takes control of LeBron James and everything pretty much.
Right.
What kind of wagers?
Yeah, I was about to say he had a much better outcome if he won. It was like if he won, he just would rule the world. LeBron just got his son back. Oh boy, would literally control everything and everybody that he sucked into this universe, which turns out to be a lot of people in the end of it all. He comes up with the idea to challenge LeBron to a basketball game because he's been spying on essentially LeBron and I guess everybody through computer software and algorithms. It's kind of like it's a commentary on algorithms and computers and technology. You know how that goes. It's that we're always listening, that big brother effect. In doing so, he knows that LeBron and his son are kind of having a tiff. He knows that his son developed software. So he challenges LeBron to a basketball game knowing that his son has developed an NBA street style basketball game. And he wants to get his son to play against LeBron. It's this huge, big marketing scheme that he's trying to draw online subscribers and viewers for.
Let's talk about LeBron. This ain't the first time I've seen LeBron in a movie. He was in Trainwreck, wasn't he?
He was in Trainwreck.
He was funny in that.
He was hilarious in Trainwreck.
But this is the first movie I've seen that focuses on LeBron James as the primary character. He was all right. You know, he was what you would expect an NBA superstar to be in a movie like this.
I would agree with that, but I felt like his acting was better in Trainwreck.
It was definitely a more natural feel to it.
Absolutely. And I mean, I guess you could make the argument that he wasn't the lead in that movie. It's always easier, I think, to be a supporting character than to be the lead character. So I give him that. But even in that, it's like, dude, but all your acting abilities seem to have completely vanished for the most part. You know, it's very reminiscent of the first Space Jam, how Michael played it. Yeah, so I feel
like it's the writing, because some stuff Don Cheadle said in this shit was like stilted to me. I think a lot of that probably boils down to how shit was written.
I think that this is very loosely based on LeBron's life, of course. The whole thing with his family, he does have 2 sons and a daughter. So, you know, you got that aspect. I don't know how true this is to the real LeBron's character. I mean, obviously, we don't know LeBron. But from what I know of him, this seems a little, like, out of his character. But it fits a good movie narrative. It's got that classic father and son, you know, I want you to do this, but Dad, I want to be me, an individual. And I would say at the heart of it, it's got a pretty decent message. But LeBron kind of like a jerk in this movie, but you see why. And they show this scene in the beginning where him playing video games cost his team a game, and his coach kind of drilled into him. You kind of see that he's instilling that into his sons. Like, he don't want them to be distracted by video games and things like that. But at the same time, this ain't really what he was doing. This is his son's passion, and he's actually very good at it. He's taking this up way too seriously in this movie, you know, and taking things a little way too seriously. So I think in hooking up with the Looney Tunes, that was kind of the direction that he was getting from them, like to ultimately let people
just
be
chill
who
out,
they
bro.
are, and relax and try to have some fun. Right.
Then you have his son, Dom, super smart dude. He's really into the whole software development world. He's developed his own game. Basically, LeBron just kind of sees it as a waste of time and not really living up to his true potential.
I find that very interesting. It's like, dude, technology.
Your son is a fucking software developer. How is that not?
I mean, you better off doing this than trying to go after a career in basketball. It's
way more job security and software development.
Yeah, bro. But of
these
course,
days,
a movie got a movie, so I get it.
He wants to have a better relationship with his dad, but he doesn't feel like he really hears him. Of course, the villain of the movie kind of takes Dom under his wing, kind of put him against his dad, and play for his team in this game. He uses the likeness of actual NBA and WNBA stars and puts them into the game and kind of enhances them and gives them like superhuman abilities and shit, and mixing them, crossbreeds them with like animals and shit. It get crazy.
We talked about how in the first original Space Jam that the Monstars actually took on the traits of their NBA counterparts.
Yeah, they took this to another level.
Yeah, this is a similar concept, but way more freaky.
I thought they looked dope though.
They did. They definitely did. Yeah, and it was some splicing going on for sure. In this splicing. I was like, oh, this is crazy.
The main villain in the movie is Algae Rhythm. He's this algorithm. See what they did there? You know, he wants to use LeBron James to get more exposure in marketing. One of the biggest athletes in the world right now. He wants to use him as a tool to get more attention to his platform, basically. And they not really feeling it. Like we said, LeBron is not a fan, so he takes that as like an attack, basically.
It's so personal.
Yeah. He seems like he got some kind of resentment towards, what, he had a father figure or something? Did you notice that? But I was like, who would his father be? But I don't know. I thought it was weird because he was so hell-bent on being acknowledged. Like he had like history of like not being recognized.
Right. Yeah, I was about to say, when were you ever recognized before? He sounded like he had fell from grace in some way.
He sounded really bitter. Like, yeah. I mean, he ain't really human at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's true. He's emotional as hell, though, for a non-human.
He wasn't,
like, Jesus Christ, man. Relax, bro. It's funny that how they always try to shoehorn in these basketball star motives. It's just like, oh, LeBron, that's the biggest star you can, nigga. You know, in real life, he would have got Ariana Grande or somebody like that. She got way more followers on Instagram than LeBron. Like, I feel you. She can't ball, so that wouldn't have fit the movie. But yeah, if you're looking for followers, LeBron probably ain't the one you need to. It's some 12-year-old on TikTok. You know what I will say? I think Don Cheadle did a good job playing him, even though he had moments where it was just like, you know, a little corny, but that's due to the writing.
Yeah, it's a lot of cringe in here, but
he had more of the funnier moments, especially with regards to like talking about LeBron's career and stuff like that. He had a few of those like LeBron dig jokes that was funny. He was animated, far more animated than you would see from Don Cheadle, but at the same time, it wasn't over the top, which I respected, because he could have really went off the reservation with it, but he kept it within a certain realm that I was like, all right, I can get with this.
Lastly, you have the Looney Tunes. They kind of estranged from each other right now. I mean, they all living in different parts of this serververse.
They all living in different product placements.
I was going to say they're worlds that we all recognize. They're all WB properties. Bugs Bunny is the only one that's still like in the Toonverse or whatever. Algae Rhythm came and put it in all the other Looney Tunes ears that, you know, they don't need to stay there. They need to branch out. And they kind of just abandoned Bugs Bunny and left him there by himself. So he's there living in his Toonverse alone and real depressed. It's pretty sad. I don't like to see Bugs Bunny like this. Bugs wants to use this opportunity to gather all his Looney Tune buddies again. I like to see the gang all together too. I kind of like that little aspect of the movie, like that little subplot. Let's just talk about the biggest thing for me. We get it, man. Warner Brothers got a lot of characters, all right? I was like overwhelmed by the amount of characters
they put everybody in there that they could find.
On the one hand, it was cool to see all of these characters interact with other characters from other properties that I've never seen on a big screen before. But it felt forced at sometimes too.
I just could feel the cheap marketing behind
just
it.
Throw them all.
Yeah,
just throw all the characters we own at the audience.
Yes. At the end, when they had everybody kind of out there on the court and whatnot, that just felt like nothing to me. Seeing the characters all whatever kind of don't mean anything if they don't interact and they don't talk and we don't see them. Now, if they would have hopped in the game and like they would have got the ball with some of them or something, that would have been kind of crazy.
It was funny that they chose the versions of some of these characters that they did too.
The Batman and Robin they had was like the Adam West version.
They had Adam West Batman and Robin. Then they had Christopher Nolan Catwoman in there. Then they also had Tim Burton Penguin in there.
I saw that.
But then they had Schumacher Mr. Freeze.
Mr. Freeze, yeah.
In the role though. Not even the suit version.
I was like, yo, because for a while I was trying to figure out who that was. I was like, is that Hellraiser?
They had a Mad Max crew in there looking crazy.
That Mad Max scene
that was one of my favorite scenes. Though.
That was actually funny.
Because who they had up there? They had Roadrunner out there, but who was up there playing the... Was it Wile E. Coyote?
Yeah,
I think that was one of my favorite
That was
scenes
probably one of the more creative aspects of throwing these cartoons into a movie.
And it made sense because Roadrunner, him and Wile E. Coyote stay in the desert.
Correct.
So I thought that was
very creative. The rest of it, like the grandma in the Matrix, that was kind of like, nigga, what? Yeah. I love the Lola Bunny in the Amazon.
Oh, yeah, that was dope.
That was probably one of the better, aside from the Mad Max one, just visually, how they did it like a comic book.
Yeah.
And she was doing the Amazonian trials.
Yeah, that was one of the better looking.
The animation on that looked fantastic. It was great. And I was like, man, I wish that all of these scenes were just as creative as that.
We can talk about the Goon Squad. I thought they looked cool. From a visual aspect, one of the two of the coolest looking characters was, what was his name? Hot Weather or Wet Hot or whatever. And the Kronos dude, I thought he looked dope too. Yeah. The design and his abilities and shit. I mean, everybody looked dope in their own way.
It's something about those Monstars, man, that they just look better than me. That's just my opinion. There's no real uniform look to them, which is cool. You know, they were focusing a little bit more on their abilities and kind of like their nicknames and stuff like that, which I understood. And since these are the actual people modified, it makes sense that they would look like a variation of themselves in some way. So I got it when they explained it. But in terms of just my personal preference, I prefer the original Monstars in terms of their look.
Yeah, I felt like the Monstars definitely had more like personality. What did you think about the game overall between the Goon Squad and the Toon Squad?
You know, now that's one aspect that I feel like this movie shined better. The basketball game in this is way ahead of the original basketball game because it's more of they took a Looney Tune approach to this, but it was still playing basketball. They wasn't playing basketball in the original Space Jam at all. They were balling in this. I think the reason for that is because this took more of like an NBA Streets kind of approach. That video game, and that game already breaking the rules anyway from a basketball standpoint. So I guess you ain't really got to need to do a lot of the cheating shit because the cheating is built into the game. The handles and the ridiculous dunks and the power-ups.
I like how they brought it to like the more real looking world with the the Looney Tunes design, how they made them 3D and everything. I thought that was kind of dope.
Me too.
Like the textures and everything of all the characters, the fur and everything. I thought that looked kind of cool, man.
You know, I will say though, Bugs looked freaky to me. Like when he turned 3D, everybody else looked fine.
What about Lola? She looked
fine. It was his face. It wasn't his
face.
Maybe it's his tooth. Like I know his tooth take up a majority of his mouth.
Big ass teeth. And his mouth. It just ain't made for the real world.
No. This is a video game, right? And it's a modernized game, so it would make sense that the graphics would kind of reflect that. I loved it, man. I thought the basketball game was a lot of fun to watch. To me, that was some of the best parts of the movie was in that game. How'd you feel about the overall, the animation, the CGI, and things like that?
For what it is, it looks fine. I mean, I'm always going to favor the old Looney Tune design more, but that's just a personal preference. But I thought it looked fine. I mean, it was smooth. Mm-hmm. It wasn't incredible, but it was fine to me.
Yeah. I thought that this movie at moments took some visual steps that, I don't know, it was never a moment where it was glaring to me. I think the mix of 2D animation, then they did some 3D, 2D, then it was scenes where LeBron was with a 2D character, then he might have been with a 3D character. So the creative steps they took with mixing the different animation styles, I thought was really cool. What's your thoughts on the comedy?
I mean, obviously there was some pretty cringy moments in this movie. There were also moments where I like legitimately laughed. I mean, I didn't expect to like laugh all the way through the movie. I knew it was going to be some moments that was going to be more catered to children. There was some cringy moments, but it was never like overwhelmingly cringy to me.
Honestly, I expected far more cringe than I got. They got the obvious moments where you can just see it's catered towards a younger audience, and that's understandable. So you go into this movie with that expectation. This is what I don't like though. When people are funny, but they're just not funny in these movies, it's just like, dog, you can be funny overall. I get it, you're not able to cuss and the adult humor, but Lil Rel was like, all them jokes was all them jokes was missing to me. Lil Rel ain't like the greatest comedian. He's funny. He's funnier than he is in this. Like, this ain't a good representation of his comedy.
I've been feeling that way with him sometimes in recent movies. Jokes ain't been landing with him for me lately, and I don't know if that's more so due to writing or if it's delivery or what.
Nothing in here landed for me. Like,
it was a couple that landed. Like when he was doing a commentary, he said something funny while they were like doing a commentary on the game at one point. I think it was when he was talking about how bad they was losing.
That whole concept of Michael Jordan coming when they did the fake out, I literally said out loud, I bet it's Michael B. Jordan. I literally said that. I knew that it probably wasn't going to be Michael Jordan, just how heavy they was leaning into it. Then when I saw his head in the shadows, I said, that's Michael B. Jordan, clearly. And I appreciate the fake out. It's funny, whatever. Michael B. Jordan had his little moment. I fuck with Michael B. Jordan. It made me think about how much cooler it actually would have been if Michael Jordan would have showed up and balled in this game.
Yeah, it would have been cool if he showed up, but
I know.
I don't know if he would have been balling. Not that, I mean, come on, it's Michael Jordan. Right. But you know, that man like 50-something years old now. So I don't know. You bringing that point up though just reminded me of something. It's like they acknowledged that things happened in the previous movie before sometime, but then they acted in other times as if none of that shit ever happened. Yeah. Which I thought was weird because this felt like a sequel / reboot and I didn't understand how. I mean, and then they even made a joke when they got Michael B. Jordan, like, oh, it's been a long time. Like they forgot what Michael Jordan looked like. So it's like, are you acknowledging that the game against the Monstars happened before or not?
The way I interpreted it was that they were, because more than one character had said something about having a previous game before, because Lola said something, Bug said something. Yeah. And then of course that whole thing with Michael B. Jordan showing up, them expecting Michael Jordan. So it was like a nod to that.
Yeah, I think that's maybe what it was. Yeah. More so like a lot of those little references were probably more so nods. It felt like a middle place, like it was like a gray area to me. And sometimes I couldn't tell whether or not that movie's events are seen to like a prequel to these events.
I think it was left ambiguous for a reason. I think it was supposed to be not blatant enough that the new kids would get confused, but enough that anybody that saw the original Space Jam would be like, I see what you're saying. Characters was acknowledging that they've done this shit before, but nobody actually blatantly said, remember that game with the Monstars?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the little aliens were in the audience too. I forgot about that. They showed them like a couple times, just a little quick.
And that brings up another question. Do you think, I got the feeling that they trying to go into, like, this is becoming a thing now. You think this is going to become like a third one? Steph Curry and the Looney Tunes?
Potentially. I guess we got to see how successful this is. I mean, would you want to see that?
I don't know, man. I really don't know. I would have to see what the concept is. If it's with the Looney Tunes again and another basketball player, it's kind of like, you might have to count me out on that. If they put another twist on it, though, I think basketball, we've seen enough.
Now, you want to hurt people, why don't you put on a football game?
That might make a little bit more sense, honestly. Have that Tom would be Brady crazy. Out that bitch.
Yeah, that would actually, I mean, that could work.
That makes way more sense with the way they get down. Yeah. The way Looney Tunes comedy is, a football game makes way more sense. They just slamming in this shit anyway. Might as well slam into another character.
I'm saying. You're trying to hurt something. Right, we waited a long time for this sequel. Did it live up to expectations? I don't even know what expectations were after all this time, especially me seeing this as an adult. I thought it was a fun movie. It had some great visuals. The acting is what was expected from this type of movie. But I thought Don Cheadle delivered. In regards to the original, how does it stack up? Not quite, but that was kind of expected too. With all things considered, I think I'm gonna give Space Jam 2 a 6 for me.
So Space Jam: A New Legacy, it's about what you probably would expect it to be. I don't know where people's expectations are for this movie. Of course, have the nostalgia tied to the original Space Jam. A movie like this, it really wouldn't have mattered even if it was on par with that. It probably wouldn't have even lived up to it just because of that movie was more than just the movie. It was the pandemonium around it. It was the phenomena around it. That movie was like a moment in time. It was a really good movie for what it was. I enjoyed it. I was entertained, which is what I would expect. The comedy was on par with these type of movies. The acting was on par with these type of movies. I thought it was decent enough to have a good time. Visuals were really good. That was some of the most impressive stuff to me. For me, I'm going to give Space Jam: A New Legacy a 6 as well. I had a good time. It's certainly above average, and I think kids will enjoy this movie.
All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in to our review of Space Jam: A New Legacy. Hope y'all enjoyed that. As always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And if you have any suggested reviews, don't forget to drop a comment below, please.
Absolutely. And if you guys have seen Space Jam: A New Legacy, please let us know what you thought. How'd you feel about the new plot? How'd you feel about LeBron over Jordan in the new movie? And how'd you feel this stacked up to the original Space Jam as well? I mean, what were your expectations for the movie? We'd like to know that also.
Definitely.
We appreciate y'all, man.
Yeah, thank y'all.
Peace.
Peace.